Welcome to Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand, owner of the company Horns of Odin, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Matthias Nordvig.
Hello, everybody. Today we are joined by Jacqui Alberts, who's a tattoo artist here in Seattle. She's also some kind of witch and and a prepper, and has Norwegian heritage here in North America, and it's grown up in Ballard, which is one of the main sort of like locations where you find a whole lot of Norwegian-ness. Mm-hmm. I saw the park. There's a little Viking ship on a stone on it and everything. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
Hello. I feel left out. You two are in a room. I'm sat here in my now colourful room because I got a proper camera rather than the one I used last week.
Oh, you should have come over.
Yeah. I wish. And we're not making that kind of money yet. So Patreon, get over onto Patreon, and then maybe we could do it in person every week. Pardon?
Everybody go support us. So yeah. They fly to Seattle to do interviews. I like that.
Oh, that would be the dream, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be. I'm not even picky. It doesn't have to be Seattle. Could be anywhere. Just anywhere where we need to be. We could do it. It would be good fun. So, what have you guys been up to?
You want to start?
Sure. Well, gosh, it's been a really exciting week so far. And not even a week, just a few days, really. We have been touring all around Seattle, showing Matthias all the sites, and we went to the Heilung show Tuesday night at Paramount here downtown, which is like this beautiful old theater. I think it was built in the 20s, so it's old for here. Yeah. And it's like a massive, gorgeous theater, beautiful interior, and it sounded amazing. I think it was, Heilung always sounds great, but it's something about seeing them in this like amazing like opera house theater that just was like
golden
opera house. Yeah, it was really special. Yeah,
I've seen some of the venues that they're doing, and they're absolutely stunning.
They really are.
Like, they're unbelievable buildings. Like, as if they're letting a bunch of pagans in there. Like, some of them are. There was one, I think it was in New York, maybe. I might have made that up as well, but I saw it on Maria's Facebook, and it was fucking stunning. This hall was just so ornately decorated. I was like, as if they let people in there just for shows, because stuff there, it gets rowdy. Yeah, it was beautiful. They really are doing some really cool locations.
Yeah, they do. They do play at some really cool locations. And this one was like that. It was. I was blown away. Like the show was amazing. The crowd was a lot of fun, I'd say. Mm-hmm. A lot of people with face paint and antlers themselves.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's hard for Heilung.
Yeah.
We're all dressed up and yeah.
What's the difference with seeing them at a festival like Midgårdsblot compared to their own gig? Is there like a huge difference crowd wise or feeling wise?
No, I was actually talking with some of them about like the difference between playing in America and playing in Europe. Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting things that I can't remember who mentioned it, but somebody said that, it takes a while for the European crowd to like warm up, but like the American crowd is like on immediately.
Yeah. So I think we're saying that. Like over here, people are just like right out the gates with the energy and just like dancing and howling and screaming like before they even get on stage. Yeah. And apparently, maybe in Europe it takes a little more time to break the ice.
It's just a little more reserved.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe that's? No, I was going to say maybe because they're spoiled with choice in Heilung, but Heilung's Heilung. It's not like they tour tons more in Europe than anywhere else. What's happening with my camera? Oh, what a nightmare. We're back. Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Rod will fix it. Fixes everything.
It's all right.
I've had a terrible week with technology. This week, my phone broke. So I went in the shower, got out of the shower, and then my Google Pixel was just doing a little, like a reboot loop where it turns on and then just comes off and then turns on and then comes back off and turns on and comes back off. And it was doing it fucking over and over. And I was furious and I was sulking and I was stomping around. And I went for a 2-hour hike with Rocco and then came back and it was still doing it, like just this loop. So I Googled out like Pixel, whatever, how to fix it. And the solution was to get the power button and get the corner of a table and just hit it as hard as you can. I just hit the power button on the edge of the table, and I was like, "That's not going to work," but let's try it, and it worked. And it started working. And the number 2 fix was to massage the screen. It was to just get your fingers in and dig them into the screen and massage the screen. And number 3 fix was to put it in the freezer. And I'm glad that I didn't have to do number 2 and light some scented candles and massage my phone like a psychopath. So,
I don't know. Maybe you could put that on OnlyFans.
There's a kink for that somewhere.
Yes.
So somebody would pay for that. Maybe they pay a lot of money for me to sit there. I'd have to be naked though, I think. I feel like the stipulation would I'd have to be nude whilst massaging the phone.
Oh, of course.
I couldn't just be sat fully clothed massaging. I mean, who's going to pay for that? Obviously, the naked part has to be in there.
Well, now we have a new concept. Maybe that can make us money for the podcast.
Maybe. We do need to do the coconut bikini. Obviously, like I said, we've had some stuff going on, but we are going to do it. Let's set up in the next couple of weeks. We'll get it going. I'll get one made.
Let's find a very distinguished professor to interview while we're both wearing coconut bikinis.
Oh, yeah. That would be good.
That would be good.
All bad, all terrible. One of the two, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
But, terrible in a good way.
Oh, yeah, we'd be entertained. I'd be entertained.
Absolutely.
That's all I really matters. Okay, let's talk about witchcraft and that kind of thing, because this always interests me. Witches are interesting.
Yeah.
So, Matthias, what did you say? Swamp witch? What?
Yeah, earth witch.
Yeah, I mean, we're not really anywhere near a swamp. There's not a lot of swamps around these parts, but I love how swamp witch sounds.
Right?
It sounds very spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds very Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Totally.
That's what it is, like running around in the swamp and let's see who it really is. I would have got away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids. I watched a bit of Scooby-Doo in my day. Okay, so yeah, witchcraft. Where do we start, Matthias?
Okay, well, do you want a historical rundown of witchcraft?
Sure. Or how all the way that Jacqui practices, and then we can go into the historical.
Do that. Yeah. Tell us all about it.
You're the expert on witchcraft. It's I don't know. It's not really something that I refer to as witchcraft so much. I mean, I've dabbled in so many different little practices over the years. Like my I guess you call it spiritual path, magical path has gone in so many different directions and woven together a lot of different things. But I think earlier we were referring to earth magic, and what that really means, or what I would think of that meaning. And
what would you say earth magic is then?
I mean, I think for me it would be just a way of interacting with the earth, plants, mountains, water, all the natural elements, and finding rituals or practices to find deeper connection to those things. I think also just like having relationship, and whatever that means. I've been interested in plants for pretty much my whole entire life, so because they're awesome.
They're good.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
We need them a little bit. I can see that.
A little bit important. So like one avenue I went down when I wanted to learn more about plants and relate to them more is trying to understand the healing properties of them, in like a medicinal sense, or even in more of a spiritual sense. So I've taken a lot of classes. I've worked with teachers, mostly here in Seattle, learning about herbal medicine and stuff like that. And through that, I think I found more of just a kinship to the plants themselves. And once I took a little bit of focus away from like, oh, what is this good for? And who are you? And who are you is a totally different thing that gets into the animism side of things. But yeah, I guess it took me from like, what is this and what is it good for? And how do I use it either medicinally or in ritual or whatever to who are you? How do I interact with you? And starting to see the plants and the elements more as beings that I could be in relationship with, and that. I think that's kind of at the core of my practice. Yeah.
I had a question that just popped up.
Yeah.
How do we define witchcraft? Because for me, witchcraft is like, I guess it's like the childhood kind of vision of witchcraft is like somebody, not like the little pointy hat and the broom and the black hat, but certainly like magic has to be a big part of it for me anyway. Or like that's my idea of witchcraft, is like someone performing magic. And then I guess the further question is then what classes as magic? Is it like a little cauldron and mixing things up and then you creating something and then expecting something else to happen? Like, is that what? Yeah. How do we define what witchcraft is?
That's so hard.
Well, okay, so historically, or at least the way that the word has been defined for us today, right, comes from a historical process that begins in the late 1400s with the Malleus Maleficarum, the witch's hammer, book that was written by two Germans tripping balls. And so what they do is that they put things that are part of the European cultural systems and some of them are survivals, for instance, from the pre-Christian period. They put all these things together in like a theological Christian interpretation. And then they explain why they are bad. And obviously, one of the main things that they're focused on is sexuality and women's sexuality. But there's also a lot of other elements. The next thing to happen is that it takes about 100 years, and then these ideas have sort of precipitated into Western Europe, particularly, and also slowly creeping up into Northern Europe as they're being taught in the universities. So you have these university theologians, right? That's really what we have at the time. That those are the people who get educated at the universities, who all start believing.
Just for anybody, we have a little special guest popping up, which is that your dog, Jacqui?
My dog, yeah. This is Timber.
Timber.
To be on the couch with us. And
I can never be mad at a dog popping in, but that was him shaking his head. Probably. Maybe he disagreed with you, Matthias. Who knows?
Oh, maybe he was like, well, that's some bullshit.
Yeah. He's got opinions about Satan.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Do you want to carry on, or did you finish?
Yeah. So we have these theologians who, get educated primarily in Germany. Like they come from everywhere in Europe and get educated in the universities in Germany, and then they go back home and then they bring these ideas with them that are written down in the witch's hammer, and then that starts becoming a culture about witchcraft and also essentially the invention of everything that we really know about Satanism is invented in this time period. The myth of the cult of the he-goat and that kind of stuff comes from this time period. It's all just like conglomerating these ideas into an idea of some kind of satanic practice. And so in local communities in different places in Europe, different aspects of what is unwanted in people's behavior are being attached to that. Mm-hmm. And that's why we see, for instance, in like the Netherlands and in different parts of Germany and England and so on, beer brewing becoming very much something that is associated with witchcraft. And
fuck, I'd be fucked.
What?
I'd be a witch.
Well, the thing is that at the time, in this late medieval period, it's mostly women who are in charge of beer brewing in the houses. And what's
that's probably smart, to be fair.
Huh?
That's probably smart.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. What's really happening is that this beer brewing, we have sort of like emergent companies. They're not really companies at the time, but people who are trying to monopolize beer brewing in context of selling beer. And so this whole element of like witchcraft comes in as a way to curb local beer brewing by women. So it's like a thing right there.
I have two questions.
Another thing, when it comes to like the plant stuff that Jacqui was talking about, a lot of the plant knowledge was also kept by women in different European communities primarily. And what you have is also in the monasteries, you have a competing tradition of knowledge about plants. This is why you can go to monasteries and find nice little herbal gardens and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's because the monks are trying to monopolize this. And so again, you get a competition situation between local women in communities who have plant knowledge and then monks in monasteries who have plant knowledge. The monks in monasteries, they can use the witch's hammer to be like, she's a witch, burn her, right? So that's another aspect to it. And so it basically becomes like this system that just gets into all aspects of social life in European countries in the 1600s in particular, which is like the height of the burning age.
Okay, I want to pull it back first. Yeah. First thing. So do you think the creation of like the term witch just comes from like little brewers wanting to badmouth the other brewer and get rid of the competition and be like, I saw you, you're a witch, and you just, and they just want to take over and how fascinating.
There's that going on. There's also trade competitions in different ways. Like people want to get rid of their competition in a particular trade. There are farmers competing with their neighbors, trying to take over their farm or just get rid of that successful farmer over there. In Norway, a lot of witchcraft accusations have something to do with the poor. So poor women are the ones who are being accused of being witches. Also, people who are, might have mental issues, or in other ways just don't fall in line and shut up. Like, there's a lot of examples, especially from Norway, of like a woman talking back to somebody who ends up on the stake, or at least
sounds like witchcraft to me. That sounds like witchcraft, 100%.
So there's like a lot of different things going on, a lot of different dynamics happening. In Sweden, it's actually quite interesting because it's like all about paranoia about Satan, for a lot of the witchcraft accusations that happen there. The Swedish sort of like height of the witchcraft panic in Sweden is later than Denmark and Norway and many places in Western Europe. And it's very much based off of the idea of like hanging out with Satan on a mountain, partying and that kind of stuff. The whole Blåkulla cult, and that is all a construction. That's new stuff. That's essentially learned material that has entered folk tradition and actually is being dispersed by all the movements of soldiers in the Swedish area, because it's in the 1600s. Sweden is at war with pretty much everybody, and they are conscripting soldiers all over the country, and those soldiers are also being moved around, and they're the ones telling the stories to the local population, and then the local population freaks out, of course. So they
imagine if all I had to do was just be like, yeah, Grimfrost, that's run by a bunch of witches. Imagine if that was all that I had to do. To get rid of the competition. But I feel like nowadays it'd be more of like a positive thing.
Well, yeah, maybe. You never know. In some communities, like they are talking here in America about the return of the Satanic Panic. And keep in mind that back in the 80s, there was the Satanic Panic going on, both here in the US, also to a degree in England, right? And of course, it also had sort of like offshoots elsewhere in Europe. And that for some people in America became a very serious deal. There were people who were still in jail for being accused of like having sacrificed children and stuff like that without actually ever having done that.
Was it the Memphis 3?
For instance, yeah, that's an example.
3?
Yeah,
Ooh, I couldn't remember the number there. I didn't want to commit to a specific number. But they famously were swept up in the whole Satanic Panic thing, and so, but obviously witchcraft didn't start with the coining of the term witchcraft or with beer brewers. Like it existed long before that. There's been people. This kind of pulls you back to, like, I was saying, what is the definition of a witch? Because it's clearly not somebody brewing beer. At what point does it become? Do you become a quote unquote witch? Whatever name you give them, whether it's a seeress or a witch, or through any culture, you have these people who can either say they can see into the future, predict people's fate, control people's fate, perform magic acts. Like, what defines a witch? Or what, Jacqui, what would you say in your opinion as a swamp witch? That's sticking. You may as well change your Instagram profile to say swamp witch now, because it's.
I mean, I don't know. It's that I think some people choose to claim that as a title for themselves, and some people don't for whatever reason, and it's a really personal thing. It carries a lot of weight for some people. It has such a heavy history, and I think for a lot of those reasons it's really intense for some people to to call others witches or think of themselves as witches. But then also there's like, it's also become really, there's like a new popularity around it now too, where in the culture, like witchy stuff's really cool now too. So the word is thrown around a lot. The word witch gets thrown around a lot, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bit different. Because you imagine the ladies who got burnt at the stake, or gentlemen, or drowned in the rivers for whatever the punishment of being a witch was. Like, you know, they were killed for being witches. Now, but people can quite openly say today, like, yeah, I'm a witch, and it's very flippant. It's nothing. It can just be you could never have.
Look, man, I actually see that in the trials. Like in the witchcraft trials in the time period where people were being burnt for being witches or hanged or whatever, decapitated. There's a lot of them in the beginning. They're like, yeah, I'm a witch.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden people start realizing, hey, wait a minute. When you say that, then you get killed.
Stop saying that.
Yeah, but you have like the different reactions. Some people, they go all in and are just like defiantly like agreeing to all the accusations, and then you have other people that are like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like,
I mean, I guess it's that thought of, especially if you're accused of being a witch for doing something like really cool, like, I don't know, something supernatural, like bringing someone back from the dead, or some sort of like supernatural event, and they're like, you did that, you're a witch. It's like, do you own it and just die in like immortality, and you're like this, I guess, like not a hero, but you're remembered as like the person that did this insane thing, or do you deny it and probably get killed anyway, but it's not quite as cool as going out being like, yeah, I did that.
I mean, that's the interesting thing. You see people actually reacting, on that whole spectrum between owning it and denying it, and it's kind of fascinating. Like if you look at the Danish witchcraft trials, especially in Jutland, one of the things you can see is that in the early period, there's a lot that has to do with something that looks very traditional, something that has been inherited from pre-Christian traditions of communicating with the little people in different ways, or the Nisse or the elves or whatever you want to call them. And then after witchcraft trials have been happening for a while, all of a sudden the public starts learning the theology that was written in the Witch's Hammer, because it's being told to them by the clergy. And so then they start actually like framing their witchcraft ideas after that. So those little people all of a sudden become like little devils that you talk to in the church and stuff like that. So like it's wild how there's like this, communication back and forth between what is essentially the pipe dreams of a couple of drunk Germans, and then actual public traditions that have existed out there. Back and forth like that.
I love where my mind goes when we have these conversations, because I just have questions. I just have things that just pop up. So, do you think that anybody's ever been awaiting punishment, like on the edge of been drowned, burnt, and they've gone, all right, motherfuckers, yeah, I did it. I did this, and if you burn me right now, you're all getting it. Like, you're all cursed. And they threatened everybody. And do you think they've ever gotten away from the punishment because of that? They've just gone all out and been like, you do this, your firstborn son's going to die or something. And then
I don't think anybody has ever been, let off the hook at that point. As soon as you're right there, awaiting, like, in the situation of getting executed, I don't think they're going back on it. I can't remember examples of that. So yeah.
Because that'd be my Hail Mary. That's what I'd try. That's what I'd definitely do.
Oh yeah, man. If I'm getting executed, I'm cursing everybody.
Okay. So to bring it back, Jacqui, to what you were saying about plants, do you think like, so I assume in not even as far back as prehistoric cultures, like the person who, the like medicinal man, the whatever you want to call them, who knows, because there are medicinal properties from plants, whether it's an individual one on its own or mixing a group together and creating a paste or whatever. Like it undeniably has medicinal properties. So do you think that person would be classed as, obviously not as necessarily a witch because the term hadn't been invented yet, but in that same vein of somebody would be the person who has all the knowledge in the plants that can heal people, I guess, or yeah.
I mean, I think some people would refer to that sort of person as a witch. I don't know if that person would refer to themselves as it. They're like a healer, like it's which is a hard word to define.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in certain times, in certain places, people would probably use that.
I think that our modern understanding of the word witch has been defined essentially from that situation where a community decides to call somebody a witch because they don't like them.
Yeah.
That's why I was trying to kind of remove the word witch from it. And if we can make like a definition of what a witch was, then we can apply that to like different, because for me, it's somebody that does something supernatural or something that's not an ordinary person can do. So I couldn't just like see the future or control someone's fate or mix a cauldron up of, because like, I guess with plants, it could be, you could mix them together and it could be a perfectly scientific reason for it. And we could understand in modern day that, mixing these plants together has a property that puts somebody to sleep or heals a certain illness or helps with a wound. But back then, it's just a person mixing together some plants. So to outsiders, they may look in on that and go, okay, that's a supernatural act. They've mixed the plants, maybe said a prayer or whatever it is, and then that becomes part of the whole process, and it does become kind of magical. Whereas modern day, we can explain it through science, but at the time they didn't have the knowledge. So you can see how that would be magical, I guess.
Totally.
Or supernatural. So I think that's what I would class as a witch, would be somebody who can perform something either otherworldly or supernatural or something like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, these days we just call people who understand the healing power of plants herbalists. And that kind of thing. We've defined those things more specifically. And we know that there's a system of science behind it, and it's not just magic. I mean, it is. Then we have to get into defining, I guess, magic,
right?
Which is a whole nother can of worms, really.
We can open it. We can open it, because particularly not so much in nowadays, but if you go back 1,000, 2,000, even further, somebody who could do something like that, and I can only imagine that a ritual would go along with it. If you were creating, I guess potion is the right word, but a medicine for somebody that's sick, and you mix it up and you put a little ritual with it and then feed it, or give the sickly person to drink. Oh, the camera's gone again. Give it to the sickly person to drink. I can only imagine that you would be seen as, somebody performing magic or some sort of. But would it be classed? I'm going down a rabbit hole myself now. Would it be classed? Do you think it would be classed as magic back then, or would it just be an ordinary thing? It's like today, through science, we then look at things that we can't explain as magic, but maybe back then it was just magic existed, and they didn't think of magic being a weird thing, so it didn't have this own term because it was just an act. It was just like, oh yeah.
The problem that we are facing right now is that we're hopelessly caught up in Christian defined terminology here, because the concept of magic was in a pre-Christian context non-existing in so many ways, because what religious acts were generally there to affect some kind of process or create a result out there in the world. It's like you go to the temple, you sacrifice animals, for instance, because you want something to happen in your world. In the same way, you go to a witch or whatever you want to call this person who's capable of, telling your fortune, that kind of stuff, and again, that has a real world purpose. You want to know what your path is. You want to know what you're doing in your life and all that stuff, and that's what she can help you with. If you're sick, you talk to somebody who knows plants, and they might have some kind of remedy. Maybe that remedy will work. Maybe it won't. That really depends. It's not an exact science either. So like back then, it was simply, you were simply just like trying to fix your situation. Mm-hmm. But now magic has then been taken out of the dominant religious system, Christianity, or at least it hasn't been taken out. But what it has been, what the dominant religious system has done is to classify something as acceptable magic and other things as unacceptable magic.
Well, that's my thought. Like, if Jesus really did turn water to wine and walk on water, that's fucking witchcraft to me. Like, burn that fucker at the stake, because you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be able to do that. It's not normal behavior.
And in Christianity, there are numerous theological arguments for why what Jesus did was okay or right or appropriate and all that stuff. But if you as a human do it, then it's not okay. And that has something to do with tampering with the laws of nature in the way that God has set them and all that stuff. And so, and again, this comes back to these processes that really just have everything to do with trying to regulate the population, monopolize certain acts in society, and ensure that those people who have been placed in power by that religious system are the ones who get to do it. And those swamp witches out there, they either get burned at the stake or stop doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Okay. So Jacqui, what would you class as a witch by today's standards? Because I don't know you too. We've met in person, but I don't know you on like a deeper level. Can you perform magic? Can you do supernatural things? Or do you think that the witches have to I assume the definition of what a witch is has changed as all definitions do throughout time.
Yeah. I mean, I think these days now it's something that people are claiming for themselves. They're reclaiming for themselves. A lot of women are finding a connection to this title of witch again, or in a way that's changed, and there's something about it that's empowering. And so, I mean, I don't refer to myself as a witch ever, but now I guess Matthias has decided I'm a swamp witch, so I have to.
So Matthias told me you're a witch and you're not actually a witch.
Well, I'm really just a hippie.
Okay, so that's interesting, because I imagine, again, we talk about the layperson here quite often, of, I guess, to the outsider, when they look at hippies, they kind of link with witches. I don't know, in some way, to the everyday person that has no interest in this. I think it's tough to put yourself in that position sometimes, because we've been doing this for so long, and we surround ourselves with people who are pagans or witches or whatever. We don't really remember what it's like to be a normie, and kind of, your average run-of-the-mill guy who's going to watch football, I guess, drinking beer with his friends down the pub, and all these normal things. And like just a general layperson who doesn't know what paganism is, doesn't know what heathenism is, doesn't know anything about Vikings, any of this. Like, I think just looking in, he would see like hippies and witches, and they would be very closely linked to the bee. That. Why do you think that is?
I mean, for me, I don't think that I don't think that I am ever doing anything supernatural or like anything that anybody else couldn't do. I think it's just the
I'm not gonna lie, that's a letdown.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm really sad that you can't make Matthias vanish right now.
It's just more, I think, a way of interacting with the world a little bit differently and thinking about the world a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, you were just talking about how you were creating relationships to plants, mm-hmm. right? Like that's a very different way of interacting with the world than the average person, yeah. I'd say. Right?
But to me, that's not supernatural at all. Mm-hmm. Once you start to do that, it becomes very real, very, very present in the physical world. It's a different way of thinking about it.
But I think a lot of people would classify it in the realm of the supernatural or delusional or something like that, right?
Totally. Yeah. But it is something that anyone can do. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I talk to trees and squirrels.
We've been talking a lot about talking to squirrels.
Yeah.
Squirrels.
Do you name them?
No, I do not name them. They have names themselves, and sometimes they tell me their names.
Yeah. Do they talk back?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about this. What do they sound like?
What do you mean? What do they sound like?
What kind of voices do they have?
Normal voices.
Do the voice. Do the squirrel voice.
Well, I mean, a squirrel voice can sound in the same range as human voices. Yeah. So. Okay.
So when you say you talk to squirrels, just run me through this. Just run me through, like, okay, Matthias is walking through the woods with the dog, and the squirrel runs in on the path.
Mm-hmm.
Go.
Well, then you can like interact with the squirrel. You could be like, "How's your day going?"
You're saying that like that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say right now, as if I'm the odd one for being like, how does this work?
Yes.
No. So obviously, like, I talk to Rocco. Like, I spend all my time with him. We're hanging out. He's got his own little voice. We're just, just chilling. I talk to him,
mm-hmm.
and sometimes I pretend he talks back, but that's me pretending he talks back. Now, I'm not talking to wildlife. Maybe I might be like, "Hi, Mr. Magpie," or "Hi, Mr. Squirrel. How you doing?" I'm not like, "How you doing?" "Oh yeah, the wife. Yeah, is she annoying you?" Like, it's not. I'm not doing that. "Oh, why do you accuse her of being a witch?" Maybe the other squirrels will put her on the stake and get rid of her.
So you just told me that you talk to your dog, you talk to squirrels, you talk to magpies.
No, but I think I'm saying maybe, I'm like, I understand like being like, yeah, hi. As it comes past, like, hi, not kind of how you doing, and then expecting a response back. That's what I'm trying to understand, is this back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like if you were to be just as confused about me having those kinds of conversations with humans, I'd be just as confused about how that doesn't work for you, if you know what I mean, to understand what's happening. Like,
that banging on my head?
Of course, always chalk it up to imagination, the dude's crazy or something else. But, in this little wonderful world where I live, I have great conversations with squirrels
I mean,
and ravens, and not so much magpies. Don't have any magpies. Well, there are here and there, but not so much.
So you mean you're mean against the magpies? You're
No. There's just not that many around where I hang out normally. The woodpeckers, snakes, the occasional moose or bear or something like that. Like,
You do it enough, you start to notice when you start to notice them talking back to you, like not just in your head. Like out of my land, we have these owls that come around and they start to make noises in the evening, like always kind of around the same time. And the other night we were out there camping and having a fire, and we were talking about the owls and that we hadn't heard them just yet. And my friend made an owl noise, just did a little hoot, and immediately we heard the hoot call back. So they're listening, and I don't know exactly what the hoot said, but I think if you do it enough and maybe listen for a response more, they start to say stuff back to you.
yeah.
okay, but okay. It's one thing, the owl hooting back at you.
Yeah.
And it's another thing, the owl being like, "Hi, Mateus. How's Erica and the baby? Everything going okay? Thumbs up." Like, that's two very different things. The hooting I completely get on board with. I think you can interact with the animals and they can be conscious enough to understand and maybe like give you a little nod or a wink. We see dogs wink sometimes. Or maybe even make a little noise back at you. But that fucking owl and that squirrel does not speak English. It doesn't know English. It's not been to school. It's not learned English. So it can't speak back to you in English. It doesn't make sense.
Of course, I wouldn't speak English to a squirrel.
So this is why I said run me through it. So what is it? Are you speaking squirrel to the squirrel?
Of course, I'm speaking squirrel to the squirrel. Come on, like.
Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. I think fair enough. Yeah.
A lot of languages.
Yeah.
Maybe you should write a book of squirrel translation.
Ooh.
Oh, there we go. Let's do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Mateus said that you are also a prepper. Now, preppers fascinate me. I know it's off topic, and I know it's not like Nordic mythology or Viking Age, but let's be honest, we don't always stick to topics. And preppers just, I find them so fascinating ever since I started watching Doomsday Preppers a few years back. And I'm just...
that is an intense show.
Some people take it to the extreme. So first of all, explain what a prepper is.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, I also don't necessarily self-identify as a prepper because, I mean, as you can see in shows like that, it carries a lot of weight and people do take it totally to the extreme. I think maybe there's a little bit of a distinction between like prepper and preparer, or just, having an interest in being self-sufficient and sustainability and maybe not having to rely so much on outside sources and other people to meet your basic needs. So I've always sort of had this mind where I'm like, how can I, and I have also always been fascinated by like hardcore preppers because there's something there.
Oh, yeah.
There is something there, even though, sometimes it can get a little extreme and a little wacky. It's like also like this person's ready. They can on anything, and it could be really empowering to just be like thinking about that stuff. So really how a lot of it came about recently, in recent years, is during COVID time, during the pandemic in 2020, everything was pretty there was a lot of uncertainty about what was going to be happening in the world, and it's like, is this it? Is this
I bet there were so many fucking preppers sat there, and let's be honest, most of the guys sat with their long-suffering wives going, see, told you. Told you this was going to happen. This is what we've been preparing for the last 10 years. And then when the world didn't burn, I bet they fucking hated it. They hated it.
I'm sure some of them haven't even come out of their bunkers yet.
Oh, I bet they did. They gutted the when the supermarkets still had food. I bet they were cursing. I bet they were like, oh, fucking, how did this happen?
Yeah, and a group of friends of mine and I we had been fantasizing and talking for years about and each of us individually and in different conversations talking about this idea of having land together. Like it's really expensive to live in this area of Washington. It's not really anything that any one of us would be able to do individually. And so what we did was we sort of banded together and bought a piece of property out in the forest out on the Olympic Peninsula, that's west of Seattle here, and sort of created a little community for ourselves.
Okay. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's been really amazing. And none of us have any idea or have had any idea what we're doing. It's a totally new experience for all of us. But we knew what we knew in that moment, and kind of out of our own fears of what was going on, our own anxieties about the world, and not really being so sure about what was going to be happening, is that we just wanted a space to be in community with each other and kind of take care of each other. So for me, like that prepping idea, that mentality is less about hiding by myself in a bunker full of like canned food and guns and stuff, and more about, how can I help my community? How can I take care of myself the best I can? How can my friends and I, in one of the most expensive states in the city, states in the country, take care of each other? So that was really it. So now we have this space where we're all learning together about how to build structures that we could live in, and grow some food, grow some herbs, and really just like a place.
Herbs. Yeah. Sure.
Herbs.
Yeah. Those kinds. Okay, so have you buried a shipping container yet? Because that is the telltale of a prepper.
That is so much. Do you know how much work that is? Not that
it's a fucking, they're big.
They're so big, and yeah, that's not my thing. We're learning how to build very cute little cabins, very very small dwellings that have as little impact on the land itself as we can get away with. And burying a shipping container, I did just because I was curious, look into just like what that exactly entails. And you do so much destruction to the earth there, and we love that place. We don't want to tear it up and put things underground, and that's not what we're doing.
But what about nuclear winter? Or when the poles switch? Because that's one that they always used to use on, which I'd never even heard of this before, but apparently like North and South Pole, they're just going to switch at some point.
We have no idea what's actually going to happen.
But that's a popular one of Doomsday Preppers. Believe me, I've watched them all. The pole switching is a popular thing, which I don't know, first of all, why that would necessarily be a bad thing. And two, like I never even knew that was even possible, that they could just flip one day. But maybe.
I don't know. I don't like. There's been some theories about how it could fuck up a lot of things, but I have no idea.
That's not what I'm preparing for. I'll just say.
It sounds to me like
I'm preparing for sitting in an off-grid hot tub in the trees in the mountains and being able to eat food that I grew and maybe have some chickens. So,
yeah, it sounds. I feel like Matthias has oversold this to me.
yeah.
I'm more of a what now?
No, I wasn't saying you are something. I was saying you've oversold something. That I was expecting a prepper, and it feels like that Jacqui is just somebody who wants to live off the grid sustainably with friends.
Totally.
That's also a prepper.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element of prepping there.
I mean, we can't be responsible for the weird shit you watch on TV.
You've been watching too much Doomsday Preppers.
Have you got a go bag?
Have I got what?
A go bag. All preppers have like a backpack ready packed to, packed, ready to go, waiting by the door. So when shit hit the fan, you just grab your go bag and you're out of there, and you've got all the supplies you need.
I have a backpack that's full of supplies I need. Like I'll be able to fix a broken leg in the woods if I need to.
Fair enough.
I mean, but so I guess I'm the prepper.
Maybe. Yeah, it's actually you. What a plot twist. Who saw that coming?
I mean, I have stuff. I have some stuff that I can access if I need it. Like I like to have handy things on hand, but I think more of it is about acquiring like some skills, some knowledge about how to help myself if something were to happen and I can't just immediately call 911 and that, which is a really great thing to learn when you're out at our place, because we're pretty remote, we're pretty isolated, and we have no internet or phone service or anything. And so that just naturally kind of creates these situations where I'm like, oh, I need to learn what to do if something happens, if I get hurt or something. So it just like it creates these circumstances where you're learning, you're preparing in a sense for situations that you know how to handle. It's a lot more practical. It's a lot like if this major catastrophe happens. But if there are catastrophes, I think acquiring a lot of those little skills and being a little more competent, a little more confident in a practical sense, all of that will help. And then just having, the infrastructure, this place that we can go to take care of ourselves, and the community is the most important part of that. Like having those relationships with people that you really, really trust, that also we've all been learning together how to take care of ourselves and take care of each other. Like that's the key to it. That's the most important thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that what somebody's doing in the background now? Are they building one of the little communes?
No. That is just a guy hammering on the outside of my house.
The unannounced construction guy.
just randomly stood there hammering.
He knows that we're doing a podcast right now.
No reason, no purpose. Just stood there with a hammer hitting the side of the house. All right, we've done an hour. Let's wrap this up. I've got the puppy to go see. I'm sure your dog needs attention and love and cuddles.
Yes, and more coffee.
More coffee.
Yeah, not the dog. The dog doesn't.
No, I'm sure he's got plenty of energy already.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rocco's been nice and quiet this week. He's learning.
Yeah, that's good.
He's learning, which is good. He's doing good. We hiked up England's highest mountain the other day.
That's pretty cool.
It's not really that high. It's like it's like 980 meters or something.
Yeah, so that's only halfway up to where Denver is in altitude level.
Yeah.
So
we're not a high country. But yeah, no, that was fun. We had a good day out. We've been doing a lot of hikes. So he's settling in well.
Speaking of mountains, the mountains around here, and especially the volcanoes everywhere, fucking amazing. Like when I was flying, this is the first time I'm in Seattle. I was flying into Seattle the plane came around. Which one of them is that?
Did it come around Mount Rainier?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Mount Rainier. That's a tall volcano. That was so dope.
Beautiful.
Yeah, really. Like I'm moving there. I don't care if it blows up. I'm moving. I'm gonna be living on the slopes of that volcano at some point.
Do it. And throw the guy with the hammer. Throw him in it.
Yes.
Put him in it. Put him in the volcano.
God.
All right, let's get out of here. If you enjoy the show, please leave us a 5-star rating, positive review wherever you listen to podcasts. Find the YouTube channel Nordic Mythology Podcast, same for Instagram, Facebook, and all that. Jacqui, where can people find you and find the Swamp Witch in the title?
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Jacqui Alberts. The shop I work at is Moonlight Tattoo in Seattle. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Matthias, where can people
you can
find
always find me on Instagram, just Matthias Norvig, and you can also check out my website, but I'm not really doing anything with it right now.
Oh, I had a rumor that you came back to Facebook.
Oh, no. I just I had to log into my Spotify. And then because that's linked up with my Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to so what happened was that I logged into my Spotify. I tried to log into my Spotify, and it gives me those options: log in with Facebook, with Google, blah, blah. And then I'm like, well, the only way I can log in is with Facebook. So I clicked that, and then it automatically reactivated my account. And then after a little bit, I was like, wait a minute, fuck. And so then I had to figure out how to deactivate my Facebook. They don't make that easy. So it took me a day to get that sorted out. And yeah, in the meantime, people thought I was on Facebook, and I was like, abort.
So someone even posted in the Nordic Mythology Podcast Facebook group, like, Matthias is back on Facebook. So obviously I was like, yeah, everyone's added him as a friend.
Actually, the only reason I haven't just deleted it is because of my Spotify. And basically what you like, if you originally linked your Facebook and your Spotify, then you cannot have your Spotify without your Facebook. So what I'll need to do is that I'll need to like download all the playlists I have on Spotify and all that stuff, and then delete my Spotify account, and then delete my Facebook account, and then go back to Spotify and create a new account that's attached to Google instead. It's like, can we get another music platform, please? Like, what the hell is?
You just keep Facebook on just keep it unactive. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Don't worry.
I hate that platform, man.
I know you do. All right, let's get out of here. Thank you very much, Jacqui. Matthias, thank you. Who have we got next week? Bob? Bob's there somewhere in the background. He's gonna. I'm sure Bob's there floating somewhere. That's gonna come up in the chat and tell me exactly who we've got next week. Because we're booked up till November now. We're back on track.
We have a full schedule until sometime in November, and it's pretty cool. On Tuesday.
Amelia. Oh, okay. Everybody listen to this. If you do not listen to the episode with Amelia, then you're insane, because that is still one of my favorite episodes we've done today. She's such a fun person, and I enjoy it when guests take the piss out of me, and that's what you two did. You two just sat there together speaking in Danish, just mocking me. I still don't know what you said, and that makes it so much fun for me.
Yes, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And she gave me a present on Tuesday. I got a little strawberry hat for my kid.
Oh wow!
It's like a little knitted hat. So
oh, nice.
I was looking forward to seeing her.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to that one. I'm really excited. Wonderful. And then we've got Benny Bratton on Thursday. Who, for anybody who doesn't know Benny, he's the aficionado of the ritual at Midgard's Blot. He's given the lyrics for the ritual as well for us to have a read through and look at. So that should be super interesting as well.
Exciting.
There we go. Let's get out of here.
Yes.
Have a good day. Take care.